What's up, baseball fans? Welcome to the channel. So today I'm going to go over my predictions for the round of 16 in the MLB Dream Bracket. So the other day I made my predictions for round 1. I'm going to go over those predictions and see how they went first, and then I'm going to get into the predictions for the second round. Okay, so here are my picks for round 1. I did get a few of them wrong. I'm going to go through them real quick. So Yankees, Indians I had correct. Astros, Tigers I had correct, but I got the Twins wrong. I can't believe the Blue Jays beat the Twins rather easily. So the Blue Jays actually advanced to play the Red Sox. White Sox, A's I had correct. Cardinals, Phillies was good. I actually had both the Diamondbacks and Nationals wrong. Absolutely crazy. I can't believe the Diamondbacks, they're pitching. I can't believe it fell to the Pirates. And the Reds, I was a little back and forth. I remember trying to pick this one. I like that Reds team. I just thought the Nationals maybe had a bit more pitching, but the Reds definitely proved me wrong. And probably one of the biggest upsets that I saw of the round, but I guess I don't know if you really want to call it an upset. The reason I'm maybe leaning towards it being an upset was because the Braves had such amazing pitching, but that Marlins team was very talented, and the Marlins, they squeaked it out. And I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, it is a good Marlins team. I just thought that Braves pitching would shut them down. But to me, the biggest upset of the entire first round was the Brewers beating the Giants. That is crazy to me. Absolutely insane that the Brewers knocked off the Giants like that. The Giants had one of the best teams, in my opinion. Guys like Barry Bonds, Willie Mays, Tim Lincecum in that rotation. Just absolutely insane. I couldn't believe that. That to me was probably the biggest upset of the entire first round. But as you can see, I got 5 incorrect out of 16 total matchups. So I'll say, hey, not too bad. I think that's around like 68%, something like that. So hopefully I can do a little bit better in the second round and predict maybe all of them correct. Who knows? We'll see. All right, so first matchup, I'm going over the Yankees and the Indians. Right off the bat, when you look at the Yankees, it's the lineup. The lineup is insane. This has to be probably the best lineup in the history of baseball. Crazy lineup. Berra, Gehrig, Lazary, A-Rod, Jeter, Mantle, DiMaggio, Ruth, Jackson. On the bench, you got guys like Mattingly, Cano, Roger Maris, Paul O'Neill. Crazy. And the pitching is solid. Whitey Ford, Andy Pettitte, Ron Guidry, right at the top of that rotation. The best closer in all time, Rivera. Guys like Goose Gossage. I mean, you couldn't ask for more solid pitching here. But when I go to the Indians are a very talented team as well. That offense is also really good. Okay, so looking at the Indians lineup, a very good lineup. Victor Martinez, Tomey, Manny Ramirez, Albert Bell, Travis Hafner. On the bench, guys like Roberto Alomar, Kenny Lofton, Francisco Lindor, Sandy Alomar Jr. But that pitching is really good too. Guys like Bob Feller, Sam McDowell, Early Wynn, Corey Kluber right there, Bob Lemon. Crazy. But I have to give the edge to the Yankees. That lineup is just way too powerful. I can't not give it to the Yankees. I think the Indians will give a good fight, but I think in the end the Yankees will prevail. Moving on to the Astros and the Tigers. Lineup here. Very good lineup as well. Brad Ausmus, Bagwell, Biggio, Bregman, Correa, Cruz, Cedeno, Berkman, Altuve. Really good. Really, really good lineup. That is going to be a very competitive lineup in this whole tournament. And then you got a great pitching staff. Roy Oswalt right there at the top. Larry Dierker, Mike Scott, Joe Niekro, Dallas Keuchel right there. You got Nolan Ryan as well, Billy Wagner, Brad Lidge. That is going to be a very tough matchup for the Tigers. And then looking at this Tigers team, they also have a really good lineup. Cabrera, guys like Ty Cobb right there, Al Kaline, George Kell, Alan Trammell. Crazy. And the pitching, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer at the top. Really good. I mean, it's going to be, I think, a pretty close series. But in the end, I think the Astros just have a little more than the Tigers. I think they have a bit of a better lineup. A guy like Roy Oswalt at the top of that rotation. I really like the Astros here, and I think they are definitely going to prevail. So yeah, Astros, definitely have the Astros advancing here. All right, so moving on to the next matchup here, we have the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. Obviously, I'm a Red Sox fan. You can see my hat, but I'm going to try and not be as biased as possible. It was really funny because in the first round, the Red Sox and the Red Sox got out to a 3-0 series lead. It looked like that series was over, and the Rangers came all the way back and won the next 3 games. And the Red Sox, they were actually down 2-1 in the 8th inning, and they rallied back, and I believe Yastrzemski hit a grand slam in the bottom of the 8th inning to win that game. So the Red Sox, they almost, it's funny, the team that came back against the Yankees in 2004 from a 3-0 deficit to win, they almost blew the 3-0 deficit to the Rangers. I digress, though. The Red Sox, it's a very talented team. It's right there at the top. There's definitely some arguments on who's better in this whole tournament, Yankees or Red Sox, but I digress. Looking at the pitching, Pedro Clemens, Cy Young right there at the top. I mean, who knows how Cy Young would do against modern-day talent. But then behind him, you got guys like Luis Tiant, John Lester, a young Babe Ruth, who was a pretty good pitcher for the Red Sox, if I might add, Lefty Grove. And in the bullpen, guys like Papelbon, Koji, Kimbrel, really good all-around pitching staff, but that lineup is just really good too. Fisk, Fox, Pedroia, Boggs, Garcia Parra, Williams, Betts, Evans, Ortiz, Manny on the bench, Yastrzemski on the bench, Bobby Doerr, Xander Bogaerts, Veritek. Crazy team. Absolutely crazy team. So let's take a look at the Blue Jays, and let's see how well they stack up. So the Blue Jays, to me, it was very surprising they beat that Twins pitching staff. I thought that Twins pitching staff would just shut them down, but it looks like that lineup was just too good for them. But looking at the pitching, Roy Halladay, Dave Stieb, Jimmy Key, these, besides guys like Roy Halladay, there's not much that just jumps out at you, but they did enough to be able to keep the Blue Jays in those games. But that lineup is definitely what sticks out here. Delgado, Alomar, Donaldson, Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion, guys like that in that lineup. And Olerud on the bench, Olerud was really good in his own right. Debatable on who should play first, Delgado or him. I think Delgado is appropriately at first base. But it's a very good Blue Jays team. I just think in the end, the Red Sox just have too much talent. I think it's just going to be too much for that Blue Jays team that, in my opinion, shocked the Twins. So I think we're going to see an exit there from the Blue Jays. And moving on to the White Sox and A's, I think this is a very, very solid matchup. That's a fun one. Here we go, White Sox. So the White Sox, surprisingly, not surprisingly, they have a really solid team. I think an underrated team. At the top of the rotation, Mark Burley, Chris Sale right there at the top. Guys in the bullpen like Bobby Jenks. I mean, the White Sox have pretty good pitching here. And then that lineup, a guy like Frank Thomas, who I think doesn't get enough credit. Robin Ventura, Maglio Ordonez, Paul Konerko. Paul Konerko actually had a really good first round. And then guys on the bench like Jose Abreu. There's Jermaine Dye right there. Shoeless Joe Jackson, AJ Pierzynski. It's a really solid White Sox team. But looking at the A's I also think are a little underrated in this whole tournament. Really good pitching. Eddie Plank, Lefty Grove, Vita Blue, Catfish Hunter. Those are a bit more retro kind of guys. And then modern guys like Tim Hudson, Barry Zito. And then you got, what a bullpen. Dennis Eckersley, Raleigh Fingers, Sean Doolittle, Houston Street. That might be the best bullpen in this entire tournament. That's a crazy bullpen. And then look at the lineup. Jimmy Fox right there at first base, a guy like Ricky Henderson, Reggie Jackson and right, Jason Giambi at DH, and then guys on the bench like Mark McGuire, Eric Chavez, Jose Canseco. Incredible talent here for the Athletics. I think in the end, the Athletics just have a little more talent than the White Sox. That bullpen is insane. They have great starting pitching. I think the Athletics are going to move on here. Okay, so that's what I have for the American League. I'm going to have the Yankees and the Astros moving on. Red Sox and Athletics will play each other. So now let's move on to the National League. All right, so this is a really solid matchup here. Cardinals and Phillies. That's going to be a really fun one. I think that has a chance to be one of the best series in this entire tournament. I think the Cardinals, they are definitely one of the top teams in this whole thing. Looking at the Cardinals right there at the top, Bob Gibson, one of the best pitchers of all time. And then just really solid guys behind him. Dizzy Dean, Mort Cooper, Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright right there. A really solid bullpen. Jason Isringhausen, Lee Smith, Bruce Sutter. And then look at the lineup. Yadier Molina, one of the best catchers of all time. Albert Pujols, one of the best power-hitting first basemen of all time. And just one of the best players of all time. Roger Hornsby, Scott Rowland. People don't remember how good Scott Rowland was. In 2004, Scott Rowland had a wins above replacement in the 9s. Scott Rowland was so good. Ozzie Smith, I mean, legendary right there. Jim Edmonds, Stan Musial, I mean, Mark McGwire at TH. I mean, come on. That lineup is so good. And then you got a guy like Bob Gibson leading the way in a 7-game series. I mean, that's a really good Cardinals team. But looking at the Phillies, also have a very talented team. The pitching, I don't think is going to be... Well, I don't know. The pitching, I think, is good. But they don't have a guy like a Bob Gibson. I mean, they have really solid guys, don't get me wrong. Right there at the top, Robin Roberts. Steve Carlton's an all-timer. Grover Cleveland Alexander. But then you do have solid guys like Cole Hamels, a younger Kurt Schilling, Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay right there in the bullpen, Papelbon. And then a really, really solid lineup. A very, very powerful first baseman, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, all-around player, Mike Schmidt, one of the best players of all time, Jimmy Rollins, a solid shortstop, Chuck Klein, Richie Ashburn, Bobby Abreu. It is a really good Phillies team. Larry Bowa right there on the bench. But I have to give the edge to the Cardinals. I think that Cardinals lineup is just so good. And then you got a guy like Bob Gibson in a 7-game series who could pitch 2 or maybe even 3 games. That's going to be really hard to beat. And I think the Cardinals will move on. All right, here we go. Next matchup. So this was the matchup that I did not predict for this round, but I still think it's a very fun matchup. So taking a look at the Pirates. So looking at this Pirates team, the pitching, like I mentioned this in the first round predictions, I don't know many of these pitchers. Not many guys stand out to me. I mean, I know Mark Melancon, obviously, because he's more modern day. But where, to me, I think the Pirates really do well is that lineup. They really got to that Diamondbacks pitching, which was very surprising to me. A guy like Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling, they were getting hit on a little bit by the Pirates, but the Pirates have a very underrated lineup here. Jason Kendall, Willie Stargell, Mazeroski, Pie Traynor, Honus Wagner, one of the just all-time greats, Roberto Clementia, a younger Barry Bonds. It's a really good offense for the Pirates. And then you look at the Reds, and the Reds, I mean, they also have a good lineup. Guys like Johnny Bench, Joey Votto, Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, Barry Larkin. I mean, just the names go on. And then with the pitching, Tom Seaver, a solid guy at the top here. Aroldis Chapman in that bullpen. Johnny Cueto here. I mean, and he's more modern, obviously, but there's just a lot of good pieces on both teams. I think in the end, the Reds have a bit more pitching than the Pirates, and the Reds, they have a great lineup of their own. I think the Reds are going to move on here, and they're going to play the Cardinals in the next round. So this, to me, I know I said the Cardinals and the Phillies is going to be a fun matchup, but I really am excited for this Marlins-Dodgers series. This Marlins team, I mean, I said it in the beginning, I thought the Braves would make it by with just the amount of pitching that they have, but that was out of no disrespect to the Marlins. I was looking at that Marlins team, and when I actually looked at the roster, I was like, whoa, that is a really good Marlins team. That Marlins team is insane. I mean, it's definitely more modern day players, but look at this team. Guys just jump off your screen. Josh Johnson, Dontrelle Willis, Jose Fernandez, Josh Beckett, AJ Burnett. Could you imagine having that starting 5 today? That's crazy. And then behind them, a couple of guys, Anibal Sanchez and Brad Penny, a really good closer in Rob Nen, Steve Cishek, I mean, a good bullpen. But then the lineup, JT Realmuto, Derek Lee, Luis Castillo, Mike Lowell, Hanley Ramirez, a younger Gary Sheffield, Christian Yelich, Giancarlo Stan, Miguel Cabrera, and a really good bench. Cliff Floyd, Dan Uggla, Jeff Conine, Edgar Renteria, who had the game-winning hit to win the World Series in '97, Juan Pierre.
that is a really good Marlins team. And I think they were getting overlooked. Probably just people in their minds just know how bad the Marlins are today. But the Marlins have a ton of talent here. But they are going to go up against a really strong Dodgers team. So, don't forget, the Marlins, since 97, they've won 2 World Series. So, in the last 23 years, 2 World Series, I mean, not bad. But let's take a look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers, just one of the best pitching staffs in this entire tournament. I couldn't get enough of that pitching staff. Where are the Dodgers? Here we go. Look at the pitching with the Dodgers. Sandy Koufax, Clayton Kershaw, Don Drysdale. Ugh, are you kidding me? Look, Don Sutton. What a top 4 that is. And then look at the bullpen. Kenley Jansen and Eric Gagne in the same bullpen. Are you kidding me? And then guys like Fernando Valenzuela or Hershiser. Crazy. Really good pitching. But then I look at the offense and I'm not thrilled with this offense. Don't get me wrong, they have really solid pieces. Roy Campanella, one of the all-time great catchers. Jackie Robinson. Everyone knows Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson, yes, he broke the color barrier, but he was also just a really solid player as well. Pee Wee Reese. They also have Gary Sheffield. So Gary Sheffield is on both teams here. Cody Bellinger, a star on the rise, already a star. And then, a really solid bench. But you know what? Man, I think that Marlins team, I think they're going to have something here. And you know what? I doubted the Marlins against the Braves with that pitching. I'm not going to doubt the Marlins against this pitching. Yes, this is really good pitching, but I think the Marlins are going to find a way, and I think they are going to win that series against the Dodgers. The Marlins are going to be just one of these teams here that I think are going to really make some noise. So last matchup, Cubs-Brewers. This is going to be a fun one. Again, I can't believe that the Brewers beat the Giants. I really thought the Giants could make it to the finals. But either way, it's still a fun matchup. Cubs and Brewers. Let's take a look. Cubs first. So the Cubs, I was really happy with how this team looked. Pitching staff, very solid. Fergie Jenkins, Mordecai Brown, they go way back. Who knows how they would do in today's game? But guys like Greg Maddux, John Lester, Kerry Wood, Jake Arrieta really pick up the slack against for the modern day kind of players. And then really good bullpen, Lee Smith, Bruce Sutter, Pedro Strop, Carlos Marmol, really good bullpen. And then just a really solid lineup. Anthony Rizzo right there, a guy like Ryan Sandberg, Ernie Banks, Sammy Sosa bringing the power, Andre Dawson bringing the power, a really solid bench, Chris Bryant, Javier Baez, a guy like Aramis Ramirez. It's a really solid Cubs team. But then looking at the Brewers, I mean, they have a good team, but I just didn't think it was going to be enough to beat that Giants team. If you look at the Brewers here, they do have some decent pitching. Teddy Higuera, Ben Sheets, Giovanni Gallardo. They also have Raleigh Fingers, Josh Hader, more modern day player in the back end. And then an okay lineup. It's, guys like Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, Ryan Braun, Christian Yelich, who's one of the best players in today's game. A ton of power, and Prince Fielder. I mean, it is a solid Brewers team. I'm not going to lie. I do like the Cubs. I like the Cubs. I think they have a bit more pitching. So I'm going to go Cubs here. Okay, so here are my predictions for the final 8 in this tournament. I'm going to have Yankees versus Astros, Red Sox versus Athletics, Cardinals versus Reds, and Marlins versus Cubs. Really intriguing matchups here. Look at that Marlins-Cubs rematch of the 2003 NLCS. Red Sox Athletics, that's going to be that to me, not just because I'm a Red Sox fan, but that to me could be the most intense series in this entire tournament. Like, ton of firepower from both teams, good pitching on both teams. I think that Yankees-Astros series, that's going to be good. There's just legendary players all around here. I think it's just this is a really good looking top 8 here, and I think it's going to be really fun to see how it plays out. So hey, we'll see what happens, but that's all I got for today. What are your predictions? Who do you think makes the final 8? Tell me down below in the comments. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.